What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the Ratchet Motors YouTube channel. So we're still waiting on our replacement rotors for the bug, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can check out our last YouTube video up at the link above here. But while we wait for those replacement rotors so we can really start enjoying the bug, we're gonna finish up our 1996 Triumph Thunderbird. So if you're not familiar, if you haven't seen this in the past, we've done a lot of work on this Triumph Thunderbird. We've replaced the Sprite clutch, which was the biggest problem. Then we finished up the previous owner's kind of half-complete bobber build. Now the last thing we need to do is replace our fork seals, fill it up with coolant, and I can take it out on my first ride. Now the end goal really is to just flip the bike, as in sell it, not tip it and throw it in the woods or something. But before we can confidently sell it to someone else, I need to take it out on the road, give it a once over, make sure everything is good, do a final bolt check, and then we're gonna put it up on Facebook Marketplace. So tune on in.
So before removing the forks so we can rebuild them, it actually comes down to removing the front wheel. So we're gonna remove the front caliper and we're gonna take off the speedometer cable before we can roll that front wheel out here. So that's the first step in the process. Once we have the wheel out, then we can remove the forks and we can rebuild them on our bench.
All right, so before taking the forks out, which we're pretty much ready to do here, I'm just gonna loosen these two caps here while they're in place. It's gonna make it a lot easier for me to loosen them while they're clamped in the actual stems, if you will. And then once we have those two bolts, caps just loosen. We're not gonna take them all the way out because the spring's loaded up in there. Just break them loose, and then I'll loosen all of my different pinch bolts, and I should be able to just drop the forks out from the bottom. Just have to be careful with this headlight assembly because it is essentially mounted to the forks. We'll do that now. All right, so now that we get the forks off the bike, and actually that really wasn't too bad, we're just gonna disassemble them, take them completely apart. I got a rebuild kit from Triumph, so we'll take them completely apart, keep everything separate on the left versus the right, clean everything up, rebuild them, and then get them right back on the bike. Hopefully this isn't too crazy. We have a couple extra tools to get everything done along the way here. We're gonna have to crack the bolt loose on the bottom of our damper. And I already broke those top caps here loose as well, but just need to be careful with those because they are going to be loaded with the spring. So just doing a couple things with caution. I have a container to catch all that old fluid. Just a couple cautionary things. We'll get it all taken apart, cleaned up, and then put back together here. All right, now don't bash me, but
I didn't have the right size tool. What you need here, let me grab a paper towel. You need a certain size 30 millimeter hex for this. I didn't have the right tool. Now I realize I do have an old nut here that I'm gonna use for my installation. I'll just weld this to the pipe. But in a jam, what I did was I'm actually using the handle of a tapping tool. I have the handle of a tapping tool here, and it happens to be the exact 30 millimeter hex I need. Now, I didn't do the first one. I didn't record it because I didn't think it was actually going to work. But I'll show how I actually use this hex to actually get in there and loosen things up here. I just kind of press down with it. It's not a perfect fit, but I got it in the corners enough that I could actually keep this kind of pressure applied to remove that damper bolt so I could pull everything apart. It's actually secured in the bottom here. In the bottom there, you can see there's actually a bolt, and that's how the damper rod is kept in. So I'll do the other one on camera, get that removed, and then we're pretty much ready to disassemble. Just be popping out the popping out the dust cover, removing the old oil seal. I think there's a little spring clip in there that we're gonna remove. Then it should pop out, and then we're back to rebuilding. I'll clean everything up once it's taken apart, but the goal here is hopefully get this done in the weekend, get everything rebuilt, get the coolant topped off on the bike, and hopefully take it out for a spin. All right, so everything's actually going really well here. Now, I didn't bother filming cleaning everything up, but we did get everything cleaned up from original. Some things took a little bit of polishing just because of how long it had been since the fluid had been changed in there, or I shouldn't really say how long because it only had 16,000 miles on the bike or something like that. I think the problem actually, no, I misspoke. It's like 7,000 miles on the bike. I think actually just because no one did the maintenance here. Either way, we got everything cleaned up. The last thing I need to do is I'm going to use this nut. I have an extra clutch nut from some parts I ordered from the Triumph recently. And what I'm going to do is actually weld the nut to the bar and probably weld some type of bolt on the end here. And I'll use that as my tool to torque down my damper rod. Now, originally I just kind of shoved something in there to hold it still when I was loosening. But to actually be able to apply torque, I'm going to make a real tool here. And after I'm done with it, if anyone's interested, you can message me or leave a comment at the video because I won't have any purpose for this. So I might consider just sending this out to the next person, maybe kind of pass it along through the different Triumph users.
All right, so things are actually moving around along here really well. So the damper rod tool worked, that one I welded up. We also got the oil seals in just fine. The last thing we need to do is place in our retaining clip, and then we can do the dust seal. Then we just put in our spring. Well, I guess we top off with fluid and we just reassemble from there. So we're actually pretty close to the end. What I just wanted to show is this kit I got from World of Triumph. It even has the retaining clip. So this is actually the Triumph branded oil seal kit. I can put a link to that in the description. But it has everything down from the washers, even that retaining clip. That was something I was worried about because my retaining clips, this one in particular, is pretty rusty and banged up. This definitely needs to be serviced sooner than it was. That's not my fault, but we will get it done and dealt with. So again, pretty close, and I highly recommend this World of Triumph kit. So again, I just have my retaining clip, my dust seals, and then from there, it's just adding the fluid and finishing up rebuilding. All right, so now that we've wrapped up the fork rebuild, there's only a few things left to do before we can take the bike out on the road. I need to bleed the clutch and the front brake because I replaced both of those levers. They're completely bone dry with fluid, so we need to bleed both of those systems. I also need to adjust the throttle cable as well as the choke cable just to make sure those are kind of sticking right now to avoid sticking. And I have to, obviously, I need to add coolant. I haven't added coolant yet since the rebuild of the motor. All right, so that's everything we have for this one. We just need to top off a few fluids and do some final touches, and then we're gonna take the bike out on its first spin. And what that means is as soon as we're done with the bike, we can start working on our F100 project. And the other thing I want all of you to keep a heads up for is we've now come out with some merchandise. So if you go on www.ratchetmotors.com, that's our new website. We got a few t-shirts and a sweatshirt up for sale. Buy some merch, support the cause. And as always, thank you for tuning in. If you like what you saw, hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and hope to see you again soon.